Okay, so I want you to imagine a modern company as this massive, sprawling digital city. It's just buzzing with action, it's packed with super valuable assets, and it's all connected by these data superhighways. Now, this place has incredible opportunity for sure, but without a master plan, it's also a place of chaos, inefficiency, and all sorts of hidden dangers. So today, we're going to explore the blueprint that brings order to this city. Enterprise architecture, but specifically through the lens of governance, risk, and compliance. Here's the game plan. First, we'll lay out the real challenge of all this digital chaos. Then we'll bring in the GRC framework as our city planning solution. We'll break down each of its three pillars: governance, risk, and compliance. And finally, we'll see how they all lock together to build a truly resilient foundation for any modern enterprise.
All right, let's jump right in with the core problem. I mean, why do we even need enterprise architecture in the first place? Well, it's all about making that big shift from a state of reactive, messy disorder to one of strategic control and really intentional design.
And this image pretty much sums up the reality for most big companies, right? It's this tangled web of systems, processes, and tech. It's a perfect picture of digital urban sprawl. It's inefficient, it's a nightmare to navigate, and honestly, it's just full of vulnerabilities that are practically waiting for something to go wrong, whether it's an internal mistake or some external threat. And this really gets us to the central question that every future enterprise architect has to answer. How do you actually impose a logical structure on all this complexity? How do you make sure the digital infrastructure isn't just holding on for dear life, but is actively helping the business grow, adapt, and innovate safely? The answer lies in a really powerful, integrated approach. I want you to think of it as the City Planning Commission for your digital enterprise: governance, risk, and compliance, or GRC. And this isn't about creating bureaucracy. It's about smart, strategic design and safety. At its heart, GRC is really a system for enterprise governance of information and technology. And the key word here is balance. You are constantly, and I mean constantly, weighing three things. Are we creating real value for the business? Are we managing and optimizing our risks? And are we using our resources, people, money, tech, in the best way possible? In our city metaphor, this is the main job of the city government: balancing progress, safety, and the budget. Now, frameworks like COBIT make this whole idea really concrete by breaking governance down into 5 key domains. It starts at the very top with EDM, where the board evaluates, directs, and monitors. Then strategy gets set in APO, that's align, plan, organize. Solutions get built in BAI, build, acquire, implement. They're run day-to-day in DSS, deliver service support. And then finally, MEA, monitor, evaluate, assess. Checks to make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. See? It's a full top-to-bottom structure for control. So let's dive into that first pillar, governance. If GRC is the city plan, I want you to think of governance as the zoning laws and the city council. It's the rules and the decision-making bodies that shape how our digital city grows. This quote just nails it. Governance isn't just about writing a bunch of rules. It's about defining decision rights, who gets to make the call, and maybe more importantly, who's accountable for how it turns out. The whole goal is to create a system that encourages everyone to build things in a way that's aligned, secure, and valuable for the entire enterprise. And here's the thing. Governance is never a one-time project. This COVID lifecycle shows it's a continuous loop. You start with the why, the drivers, you assess where are we now, and you define where we want to be. You plan it, you implement it, and then, and this is so crucial, you measure the results. And the final step isn't to stop. It's to keep the momentum going and start this cycle all over again. As an architect, this is your engine for constant improvement. Okay, so we've got the laws in place. Now we need to protect our city. That brings us to our second pillar, risk management. This is basically the city's fire department, police force, and disaster preparedness agency all rolled into one. It's all about figuring out what could go wrong and having a solid plan to deal with it when it does. The NIST cybersecurity framework is a foundational tool here, and it has a really logical flow. You start with govern, setting the overall strategy. Then you identify your critical assets and the risks to them. With that knowledge, you can protect them with the right safeguards. But since no defense is ever perfect, you need to be able to detect threats, respond to them when they happen, and recover your services afterward. It's a complete proactive security lifecycle. Now, here's a critical distinction that trips a lot of people up. You've got an emergency response plan, or ERP, and a business continuity plan, or BCP. The ERP is about the immediate crisis. The fire is burning. What do we do right now to protect people and assets? The BCP is about what happens after the fire is out. How do we get the business up and running again? As an architect, you have to design systems that can handle both, surviving the crisis and recovering from it.
But listen, a plan that just sits on a shelf is completely useless. For it to actually work, it needs sign-off from management. It has to be distributed to everybody who has a role to play. And most importantly, it has to be tested. Running simulations and fire drills is how you find the flaws in your architecture before a real crisis does it for you.
A huge evolution in risk management is this idea of zero trust. The old model was kind of like a castle and moat, a really tough exterior, but once you were inside, you could pretty much roam free. Zero trust assumes the enemy is already inside the walls. It operates on a simple but really powerful principle. Never trust, always verify. Every single request for access, from anyone, anywhere, has to be authenticated and authorized. No device or user gets a free pass just because they're on the internal network. Okay, so we've got our laws and our emergency services. Now for our final pillar, compliance. This is the building inspector of our digital city, making sure everything that gets built follows both our own internal standards and all those external laws and regulations. And compliance isn't just about avoiding fines. It's a huge driver of good architecture. When you map regulations directly to your processes, you create this clean, auditable trail. But the real power move is turning those regulations into your own architectural principles. This forces you to build systems that are more robust, secure, and well-documented from day one, not as some painful afterthought. So there we have it, our 3 pillars: governance, risk, and compliance. But here's the most important part. They don't work in isolation. The real power, the real strength, comes when you integrate them into a single, strong foundation for the entire enterprise.
Building this foundation is a journey, and the NIST tiers basically give us the roadmap. A lot of organizations start at Tier 1, where risk management is pretty partial and reactive. Then, they move up to Tier 2, becoming risk-informed, with some approved practices. At Tier 3, those practices become repeatable across the whole company. But the ultimate goal is Tier 4, adaptive. This is where the organization is actively learning and using predictive data to stay ahead of threats. As a future architect, your job is to help push your organization up the ladder. Now, there's a really common misconception that all this structure, all these rules and processes just stifles creativity and slows everything down, that GRC is a barrier to getting things done. But that's completely backwards. Good GRC isn't a cage that's holding you back. It's the launchpad. It is the strong, stable foundation that gives you the confidence to build higher, to innovate faster, and to execute your strategy knowing that the structure can actually support your biggest ambitions. This framework gives you the blueprint for building resilient, secure, and truly valuable digital enterprises. It gives you the tools you need to tame that chaos and create strategic order. So the only question left is, for the digital city that you'll one day be responsible for, where will you start building?